just means being caught up on the latest season of the TV show that tells you what's going on in the world. That is what you're going to be talking about with your friends and family. That is what you're going to use as a backdrop when you discuss politics. Again, your life these days is not so much about participation anymore. It's about contemplation of this spectacle. What this sort of life eventually leads to for De Boer is a state of an almost constant feeling of disorientation, of dizziness. Almost like you're in a house of mirrors and you can't quite figure out which direction to go in. There is, of course, the obvious distraction from reality that's possible these days. The escapism from our problems by watching movies, shows, playing video games. No shortage of ways to ignore reality if you wanted to. But then there's the neat trick the spectacle pulls off that keeps even people that want to change the world for the better incapable of having even a basic conversation about things. Because when all the information you have about reality is a representation of a representation, when images become autonomous, as De Boer says, meaning that they aren't even mediating something about reality anymore, they're just mediating other images. Think of a meme that only makes sense when referencing some other meme. Or again, the news story that only makes sense if you accept other news stories. When images become autonomous, then things like misinformation become extremely powerful tools to keep people divided. Because when people can't even agree about the most basic points of a conversation, if you can get opposing viewpoints feeling like they're living in two completely different universes, then any possibility of them coming together, agreeing about the problems in the world, and finding a way to solve them, that goes out the window. In other words, to De Boer, the revolutionary potential of the political process is destroyed by the spectacle. We have masses of people spending thousands of hours of their lives trying to revolutionize an illusion, which devolves even further into masses of people fighting about which illusion is more accurate. Sounds a lot like the Crusades. You know, some people out there say that Marxism is just a transparent ploy to create division between people. Well, what is this then, De Boer might ask? More than that, even if people could agree for a moment about what reality is, if their illusions could have some sort of planetary alignment moment, this world of images is so subject to change all the time that tomorrow, the events that matter in the world could be totally different than they were yesterday. The references you were making a year ago are completely different than the references you're making today. There's no continuity. Once again, people end up feeling disoriented, like they can't grab onto a piece of reality long enough to ever change it for the better because it transforms into something else. Contrast this with, again, practically every other generation of human being, where there was an understanding about what reality is that you gained over time, because there were certain things about the reality of the world that were immutable, but there's nothing immutable about the illusions that matter to us today. And again, when everything is subject to change on a moment's notice, where does that leave people when it comes to finding anything that's meaningful or enduring? People end up living their lives in a place where, at least implicitly, everything seems meaningless to them. Language, then, which in the past has been one of the most important tools for revolutionizing society for the better, language becomes merely something used to describe this stream of images, these fleeting, commodified fragments of reality that don't really describe reality, so how can anything real ever be revolutionized? The spectacle is the absolute perfection of keeping things the way that they are. But it should be said, all these examples so far have just involved the media as an instrument that does this. But this is not just the media. The media, as De Boer says, is just the most superficial manifestation of the spectacle. It's an obvious example that everyone can see if you're looking for it. But it goes way deeper than that, to, again, an entire religious attitude that we all carry around with us. He writes, quote, "The spectacle is not merely the apparatus of media, but the relations between individuals themselves, as mediated by the stream of images that represent their daily lived experience of this pseudo-reality." End quote. Let's talk about some examples of this. All these are going to reflect the attitude that grows out of the way we fetishize commodities, where the social appearance of the thing matters more than the substance of the thing. What's going to happen in modern society is we're going to end up turning that attitude inward, towards ourselves and towards other people around us. For example, take the common strategy for choosing political candidates. People will vote for someone that looks or feels presidential without ever looking into the details of what the policies are that they're going to try to get passed. And even if they do read the policies, most people know they're never going to go into office and get any of this stuff done anyway. But they look the part. And to some people, that's most of the battle. You see this same thing emerge at the heads of companies in the private sector. You have these enormously powerful people that are the faces of giant businesses, and you're sold what feels like a marketing campaign about how brilliant these people are. Like they're playing 4D chess at a level no one can fully understand because they're just not as smart as them. But then you do some digging into the other side of the story, and it's like, are these people really unparalleled intellects of our time that are going to save the world? Or is this a marketing campaign I'm being sold to instill confidence in shareholders because the market's based on mass psychology? Again, the funny thing to DeBoer is that even if it is just a marketing campaign, for a lot of people out there, it doesn't even really bother them that much. The appearance of saving the world is what matters, not the substance. Think of the people that buy the fake Rolex, or the fake Gucci bag, or the people that put things on credit that they can't really afford because what matters to them is socially appearing a certain way, not actually being the person. Think of any example of people wanting to wear the medals but not earn the medals. It's not fake it till you make it anymore. Faking it is making it in the society of the spectacle. Think of how our lives are often split between the reality of who we are in the physical world and a digital representation of who we are on the internet. We create a digital identity that we curate and we decide how it appears. We choose the select